Warning. The following content is not suitable for anyone under the age of 18. In compliance with the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, as administered by the Federal Trade Commission, this is a warning disclosing that none of the following content is targeted towards children. Creepy Carousel Horror Podcast features horror content that may contain adult themes, violent scenarios, vulgar language, and potentially offensive subject matter. None of the following content was created with the intent to be distributed or targeted towards children, persons under the age of 18, or individuals sensitive towards offensive and/or vulgar content. The singular purpose of this show is mature entertainment aimed at an audience 18 years of age and older. You've been warned. Now on to the show.
Thanks for listening. I'm GZDude13.
Are we starting?
Somewhere, in a forest of shadows and gloom, there is a dark and forgotten carnival. Abandoned and rusting, lost in time. But at the center of this festering festival of fear lies the still living heart that is the Creepy Carousel of Horror. Join your hosts, horror narrators TJ Scorpio and GZDude13 as they discuss all things horror and macabre.
But hey everybody, I'm GZDude13 and you're listening to the Creepy Carousel Horror Podcast, Funny Power Hour. I'm your host, GZDude13. Damn it, I couldn't keep a straight face.
I was like, you better not be serious, because I cannot follow when you start like that.
Are you kidding? I'm serious. And she's TJ Scorpio, and she can't believe that we started.
Yeah, I'm gonna cut all this out.
God damn it. Okay, alright, fine. Hey everybody, I'm GZDude13, and you're listening to the Creepy Carousel Horror Podcast, the Funny Power Hour.
And I'm TJ Scorpio. Sorry, I don't mean to be laughing this fast. But
I'm kidding. Welcome to the Creepy Carousel Horror Podcast, where we talk about all things creepy and scary and macabre and all that great stuff.
Yes. Welcome.
TJ, would you like to tell them what we got for them today?
We have something very special for you guys today. We have a story written by our very own GZDude13.
Who's that guy?
I don't know, but he's pretty cool from what I've heard.
Nice.
Around the carousel.
Oh.
He has written an amazing story that we are going to read called The Girl and the Closet.
And of course, there's a second part that I will be reading called The Stalker and the Closet.
Yes. Completely different perspective on the exact same thing.
Now, to make it interesting, I gave TJ Scorpio one half, and I did not show her The Stalker and the Closet. So she has no idea what my story is all about. She's only seen that side of the story.
Yeah, so I'm going to be just as surprised as all of you when we get to his side, because I'm clueless about what his side's going to be. So
I'm just excited. Clueless in general.
No, you're not clueless because you wrote this amazing story.
No, I'm not clueless about the story. I mean in general.
No, but I'm saying you're not clueless in general. You wouldn't have been able to write the story.
I wrote a story?
Yeah. We're going to read it tonight. Never mind. I take back what I said. You are just kidding. Yeah.
This gag has gone too long. I'm sorry. TJ, please take it away.
Hold on. I got to get my game face on. The Girl and the Closet by GZDude13. Narrated by TJ Scorpio. The following are select journal entries from the mini journals belonging to Shelley Mary Jones. August 29th, 2006. Dear Diary, Mommy and Daddy are making me start writing in this journal after I got in trouble. Marcy is a girl in my class. I barely started the second grade. Marcy was mean to me and took my brand new markers without asking. So I pushed her and called her a goober. I was sent to the office and my mommy and daddy had to come and talk to my teacher. They said I was fighting, but that was not true. The principal talked to my parents about bullying, and they said they would talk to me about it too. So, today, I'm writing in this diary as they're a P, or something like that. Daddy told me that if I'm mean to others, then the dark eye monster will come and get me. They say that the dark eye lives in the dark parts of the world, like shadows and sewers, or under my bed, and loves to go after bad kids, kids that bully other kids and hit or call them mean things. My teacher says that I'm too smart to be a bully and should focus on being a good student. I think from now on, I will be good, even if others make fun of my red hair and freckles. From now on, I will be a good girl. January 25th, 2010. Dear Diary, I came home crying from school today. I get made fun of a lot at school, even though I do my best to be kind to everyone. Today, I think I reached my limit because I ended up slapping Jenny after she pulled my hair. She was mad at me because she has a crush on Brandon, and he likes to talk to me during lunch. She and her group of friends came over to my table when I was alone and started saying mean things about why I always sit alone. I tried to be nice and tell her that she had the wrong idea, but she only chastised me for putting on the good girl act. When I tried to answer her, she yelled, "Shut the fuck up, bitch," and pulled my hair. I didn't mean to slap her, it was just a reflex. Mom and Dad are going to be so disappointed. I've heard the rumors. Everyone thinks I suck up to the teacher and that's why I get good grades. Everyone says that I only pretend to be nice and pretend to be sweet because I like the attention from the adults. My parents used to scare me with stories about the dark eye monster to make sure I didn't turn out to be a bully. I guess it stuck pretty well because even though I know my parents are going to flip out over me getting detention, I'm more scared of going to sleep tonight because of the dark eye monster. It's such a stupid childish fear to have, but it's still there. January 26th, 2010. Dear Diary, I had a really bad nightmare last night. I went to bed still feeling really guilty over what happened with Jenny yesterday. It didn't help that my parents were pretty upset with what happened at school either. I'm effectively grounded for the next 2 weeks. I guess I deserve it, but the worst part was the night after. I dreamed of a black shadowy demon with the darkest glinting eyes I have ever seen. It was the dark eye monster my parents used to scare me with. I know the dark eye isn't real and that it's childish, stupid tactic my parents used to keep me in line, but it felt real in my dream. It was pitch black, yet I could still see 2 eyes that were darker than black and shined like polished onyx. I woke up sweating and panting as if I just ran 1,000,000 miles. The dark eye isn't a real thing. My parents made it up. But just in case I'm wrong, I promise to be a better person. I promise to be kinder to people no matter what. October 19th, 2016. Dear Journal, it was a fairly good day today. The student council members all met up during our open period in the morning, and we agreed on all the decorations for the Halloween dance. Edgar Ochoa asked me to go with him, but I politely turned him down. Shannon doesn't have a date, and I agreed to go with her and the rest of the girls as a group. We're all going with themed dresses and outfits. We agreed that no costumes should be allowed at the dance, only themed outfits. The teachers will be in charge of how the craziness will be defined. As a side note, I think we have to address the issue of bullying in school again. I'm going to bring it up tomorrow because today, while I was walking to my 5th period class, I had to step in and stop the jocks from bullying Sean Snyder. He's an easy target because he's a little shorter than the average high schooler and a bit awkward. I can relate a little bit because I used to be made fun of for my bright red hair and pale skin. Devin Martin and Jerry Shoemaker seem to be the ringleaders in most fights and bully-related issues on campus. I'll talk to Mrs. Hartwell and Mr. Terrence tomorrow about the issue. July 4th, 2017. Dear Journal, first off, happy 4th of July! It was a fantastic day, up until the end. It was a Tuesday, so I had to go to work and then come home for a lunch break before meeting up with Mom and Dad for a barbecue. Keeping with our yearly tradition, we headed to the park to watch the fireworks when the sun goes down. The city went all out this year. There were a ton of awesome stands selling funnel cakes, hot dogs, pretzels, and even a German wiener stand. Nothing says American patriotism quite like German sausage. Ha ha! But now for the negative part of my day. I saw Sean Snyder again today. I honestly think he really is stalking me. I don't get any weird messages or anything online, and so far I haven't really felt like my life is being directly affected by him, but he has come up in the coffee shop several times during my work shift, including today. I've seen him at the store while applying for classes at college, and today at the park. I literally bumped into him at the German sausage stand. I turned around to walk back to my parents to get some cash and walked right into him. I know I've mentioned before that I think he's following me around, but today, I think this proves it. He's being a little creep. The way I bumped into him really disturbed me. He's so short that when I turned around and walked into him, just, ew. April 6th, 2018. Dear Journal, oh God, I haven't been sleeping well during the past few weeks. I've been having nightmares and end up waking up around 3 a.m. I started having nightmares around July of last year. I know what it is, too. I'm stressing and letting in negative thoughts. I have to try and stay positive and polite, but honestly, some people are complete garbage. I noticed that the only nights I have nightmares are the days when someone ticks me off. The nightmares are always the same, too. That stupid, childish monster my mom and dad made up to keep me in line. Dark Eye. In every nightmare, I see it creeping after me, slowly getting closer and closer every night I dream of it. I've gotten into the habit of looking under my bed and in my closet just in case there are monsters hiding there, namely, Dark Eye. Maybe I'll start meditating again and try to think more positively. April 9th, 2018. Dear Journal, between college, work, and the possibility of having a constant stalker, I saw Snyder the creep today. Again. I am stressing out, and people are pissing me the hell off. Every night, I have the same nightmare of Dark Eye coming after me. I wake up at 3 a.m. and find my closet door open. When I'm sure I close the damn thing. I'm probably just being a drama queen, but I keep up the facade of being unaffected by the bullcrap people throw my way. My co-workers talk smack about me behind my back and have accused me of going as far as sleeping with the boss to get my promotion. 2 of my teachers are completely incompetent when it comes to grading papers, and I swear that sniveling little hobbit Snyder somehow memorized my daily schedule because I see him everywhere. I'm just glad he doesn't know where I live. April 11th, 2018. Holy shit, Journal. My patience is being tested today. I woke up again last night, and again my closet was wide open. I'm driving myself insane because this time I could have sworn I saw a monstrous dark figure stepping out. I managed to get my desk lamp on, only to find myself completely alone. Seriously, the Dark Eye is just make-believe. Going back to sleep was hard, but I got a bit of sleep afterwards and managed to make it into work on time. My co-workers were being the usual assholes again. College life is just as annoying as usual. My professors must be retarded or drunk because they don't seem to understand the course material at all. I need to get a hold of myself. Maybe working and going to school is burning me out. I'll try to slow down and relax for a bit this weekend. Also, I'm going to sleep with my lamp on tonight, just to try and keep the nightmares at bay. This is getting ridiculous. On the evening of April 12, 2018, local media reported on the brutal murder of Shelley Mary Jones. In the following weeks, police and investigators used Shelley's journals, as well as the statements of witnesses in her neighborhood, to piece together the events leading up to her death in the early hours of April 12, 2018. Shelley was found by police responding to a 911 call made by concerned neighbors who reported hearing screams emanating from Shelley's property a few minutes after 3 a.m. that morning. She was discovered lying in a puddle of her own blood in her bedroom. Her body was covered in bruises and multiple lacerations. Evidence discovered on the scene included a large carving knife taken from the victim's kitchen, a blood-covered baseball bat also belonging to the victim, a cell phone and camera on the outside of the victim's bedroom window, with pictures of the victim taken from the outside of her home, DNA samples on the outside of the victim's bedroom and bathroom windows, and multiple fingerprints on and around the outside of the victim's bedroom window. Witnesses reported hearing screams emanating from Ms. Jones' home a few minutes after 3 a.m. The neighbors on the east side of Ms. Jones' property reported hearing a loud crash as if someone knocked over some trash bins. The neighbor on the west side of Ms. Jones' property was awoken by the sound of screaming and also reported hearing a similar crash that made him step outside in time to see a short man running down the street with a visible wound on his arm trailing blood. Further investigation proved that the camera and cell phone found on the scene belonged to a man named Sean Caleb Snyder. Investigators believe that Mr. Snyder had developed an unhealthy obsession with Ms. Jones. Ms. Jones wrote about her suspicions on the very matter in her personal journals. Evidence suggests that Snyder allowed his unhealthy obsession to build up to the point in which he began to gain entry into Ms. Jones' property while she was asleep. Investigators believed that on the night of the murder, Snyder gained entry into her property, retrieved a knife from her kitchen with the intent to assault Ms. Jones in her sleep. A struggle ensued, which led to the death of Ms. Jones. It's believed that the bat and knife found on the scene were both used to assault the victim. The DNA and fingerprints found on the scene of the crime came back as a match to the suspect in question, Sean Caleb Snyder. He was later arrested the same day by police, who found him hiding under his bed at his parents' house. He had sustained a similar injury as described by the neighbor that witnessed Snyder fleeing the scene. Furthermore, the injury matched the lacerations on the victim's body. It's believed that he sustained the wound during the struggle with the victim. The baseball bat must have been a weapon of opportunity. Snyder was arrested and taken to the local hospital to treat his wounds. He has not cooperated with investigators and has shown signs of extreme mental instability.
Hey, let's give her a hand, everybody. Woo!
Thank you, Mike. That's hard to read with you listening.
That is. Towards the end is definitely a little bit harder to read because I narrated it to myself and I realized how much of a tongue twister it can be.
Yeah, some words can be.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, but it just sounds good out loud, and I wanted to keep it that way.
No, I love it. It's great.
All right, so before we move on to my side of the story, just plain and simple, we all see that Snyder, the same guy that she stepped in for in high school, has started stalking her.
Yes.
All evidence points towards him grabbing a knife from her kitchen, struggling with her in the middle of the night, possibly even hiding in her closet and scaring her, and then ultimately cutting her up. And during the struggle, she probably cut him, hence the wound, and then he resorted to using her own baseball bat against her.
Right.
So I set it all up just so as everyone else could pick up on it. And even if you didn't pick up on it, I just told you what it is.
Right, and my thought is that he probably started obsessing over her after she stuck up for him, because he maybe took that as more than it was.
Oh, yeah.
She was being nice,
Oh.
but he thought, oh, she did that because she's interested or she likes me or whatever. That's what the impression I'm getting.
And you can see in the style of which I've written it, she's a very nice and composed, well-involved student in high school. Mm-hmm. She doesn't curse in all of her journal entries. I mean, the first early journal entries, she curses, but that's because she's quoting someone.
Exactly.
She's well-spoken, she's well-liked, and then towards the end of her journal entries, she is a mess.
Yeah. She doesn't sound like she's doing well. People aren't... Well, and she's getting the impression people aren't happy with her or they're upset with her. But if her personality had such a rapid switch and such a different... she went from being so sweet to just being angry, it seems like, and stressed out. So, yeah, she's probably hard to be around.
Yeah, and I wanted it to look that way, mostly because what you see is her trying to suppress negative thoughts towards people.
Right.
She's basically at a young age learned or thought that she learned that bullying is also incorporated in thinking negative thoughts about people. So she tries her best not to be mean outwardly and inwardly. And that backfires because it just stresses her out when she becomes a much older person.
Right, because you can't always think good thoughts,
That's not possible.
Yeah. I mean, you can be positive. You can be a positive person and have a positive outlook, but there are times when even the most positive person gets stressed out, angry, upset, mad at somebody, frustrated with somebody. That's natural human emotion. So her trying to suppress that and her parents making her feel like that's wrong, they didn't do her any favors.
No. So that's a clear message that I wanted to throw in there. And there's a lot more that I can say, but I'm going to hold it in until I get to my side of the story.
Okay. DZ Dude 13, take it away.
Whoa, why thank you.
You're welcome.
If you're reading this, then it means I'm already dead. Mom, Dad, I'm sorry. Here I am, rotting in a jail cell. But despite everything I'm about to admit, I want you to know that I'm actually not the bad guy in this story. This is not a confession to the brutal murder of Shelley. This is an explanation as to what I know, but can't say in court. I love Shelley. I loved her, even though she didn't really know I existed. That's why I would follow her to work every day and watch her through her window at night while hiding in the bushes. Yes, that's creepy. Yes, I watched her in her most private moments alone. And yes, I was stalking her in real life and online. But I'll talk more on that later. I have to make this absolutely clear. I didn't hurt her. We first met in high school. I was getting bullied and picked on as usual. I was shorter than the average high schooler, and I was a bit more socially awkward than most people. But damn it, I was still a fucking person! Shelley Mary Jones was the only person that seemed to know this. She was popular. But not because she was a bitch, or because she flaunted how beautiful she was with her bright red hair and freckled skin. No. She was popular because she was kind. The only person that was ever kind to me. Besides my parents, anyway. She put an end to my bullying and looked at me as if I was a real person. Not like something unpleasant you find under your shoe. I wasn't very good at talking to girls. Shoot, I wasn't very good at talking to people. So naturally, I had no real way I could tell her how I felt for her, so instead I resorted to stalking her. I didn't start watching her sleep until after we graduated, and I learned where she lived when she threw a graduation party at her new house. Her parents gave her a new house as a high school graduation gift. Honestly, she deserved it. She graduated top of the class, you know. I went to the same local college she did, and tried to get the same classes she did just to be close to her. I followed her on social media and found out where she worked, and that she was part of the local softball team that played every summer. I attended all of her games. And then I started spying on her at her house, looking through her windows and hiding in the bushes. I know what you're thinking. I'm a pig. I'm a creep. A disgusting little pervert. Yeah. I've heard it all before. I don't deny it, but I'm not the one who killed her! Being her stalker, I can confidently say that I knew her better than most people. I noticed that during her last few weeks before she died, that she seemed slightly off at night. I think she was having nightmares, but I wasn't sure yet. I planned on sneaking into her house one day and reading her journal, but I never had the guts to do it, even though I already knew where she kept her spare key, hidden under the flower pot in her backyard. One night, after Shelley finished her usual routine of having dinner, showering, writing in her journal, then going to bed, I stayed and watched her, as I always did, only this time I stayed a little bit longer. As she finished her nightly routine, I moved from one window to the next. From the kitchen window on the north side of her house, where she prepared and ate dinner, to the small east side bathroom window to watch her shower, then to the spare bedroom window just a bit over to watch her walk to her bedroom. All the while, she would keep looking over her shoulder. I almost thought that she was catching on to me, maybe suspected that someone was watching her. But that wasn't it. I was too careful, too silent and stealthy. Something seemed off about her, and I wish I could have asked her what was bothering her so much. She hadn't posted anything on any of her social media platforms, so this really stood out to me. When I moved over to her bedroom window in the south side of her house, I made sure to take my time getting there. The neighbor's dog barks if it hears any bit of noise, so stealth was absolutely crucial during the transition. The landscapers recently removed one of the bushes in the backyard, so it made it easier for me to make my way over quietly. I always made sure to brush away the footprints I left in the dirt every night as I was leaving. When I reached her window, I cautiously peered in, as I'd done countless times before, and saw her searching through her walk-in closet. This was a new part of her routine. Or maybe this was something she always did, but I never saw it because the bush I mentioned would slow me down too much. Either way, it was strange and out of character for her. On her nightstand, she now had a flashlight and a kitchen knife, and by her bed there was one of her softball bats. Shelley was scared of something, which made me think that maybe she suspected that someone was watching her. But she didn't check her window, only her closet. She wrote in her journal and would stop from time to time to look up and over to the closed closet door, almost as if she expected someone to be watching her from there. Finally, she closed her journal and put it away in her bedside drawer. Oh, I longed to get my hands on it and read her most private thoughts. Maybe she had an older journal, one from high school. Maybe she wrote about me in it. I really hope so. But that didn't matter. I stayed by her window and watched her sleep. Usually, I called it quits after midnight or 1 in the morning. She usually turned out the lights at 10 p.m. sharp, but this time, she left her desk lamp on. This was also out of character for her, but honestly, I was very grateful for it. The soft yellow glow of the dim light made it easier to see her beautiful red hair, neatly brushed after her shower. It made it easier to snap a few pictures for my collection, too. Her fair and freckled skin almost seemed to glow brighter than the light, and I could see her beautiful face clearly through my camera lens as she lay there, peacefully trying to sleep. I think she drifted off into deep sleep around 11:15, and by then, she had rolled over and the comforter had fallen off. Her desk lamp flickered a little just before midnight as I continued to watch her sleep. She looked so beautiful as she slept, but I could see that she wasn't sleeping quite so well. She tossed and turned a lot, and her face was slightly contorted, as if she was having a bad dream. I remembered wishing I could climb in through her window and comfort her as she slept, but I knew that wasn't a good idea. As she tossed and turned, her desk lamp flickered a bit more. She settled and went back to a silent slumber up until a few minutes after 3 a.m. Her blankets now lay on the floor and the desk lamp continued to flicker. Despite the strange strobe effect that her lamp was emitting, she remained sound asleep, but something seemed off. Something was different in her room. Scanning the area, I saw that her closet door was slightly ajar. I'm sure Shelley closed it before bed. In fact, I'm 110% sure she did it. She did because she searched it, and that was really out of the ordinary for her. I watched in silence, trying to find a rational explanation or ounce of doubt as to why the door was now open. Before my mind could come up with an answer, the door opened a little wider. Even the desk lamp was flickering on and off. It still should have shined some light into the closet. I should have seen her rows of sundresses and flowery shirts from the foot-wide open gap in the door. But all I saw was darkness. And then, to my horror, though, the next few seconds slowed down into ages as I watched a large clawed appendage, as black as the darkness in that closet itself, grip the upper part of the door. A tall, black mass took a step out of her closet. It looked like a solid patch of black smoke with hooved legs and long clawed hands. I should have yelled. I should have taken out my phone and called the police, but instead I stood there in horror of what I was seeing. There were no eyes on the black smoky mass, but it was obvious that it was looking at Shelley. The strobe light effect made the monster look as if it was teleporting closer and closer to Shelley's bed. My bladder let go and I felt warm piss trickle down my leg. It was enough to wake me from my fear paralysis. I had to do something. I had to save Shelley. I struggled to pull my phone out of my pocket, and instead I dropped my camera, and then in my panic, I dropped my phone in the dirt as well. Finally, I did the only thing I could do. I slammed my hands on the window glass hard, and Shelley finally stirred from her sleep, while the black mass turned in my direction. For the first time, I could see two shiny glints like black fire glass, and I knew those were its eyes. Eyes that were looking at me now. I think I screamed, or maybe it was Shelley's scream. I don't know, because I ran out of the bushes and around the house. I careened into her trash cans, spilling their contents into the street. I struggled to get back on my feet, not caring that I made a ton of noise. The dog was barking, and I didn't know what to do. I ran back to Shelley's window, only to find that it was pitch black, like her closet. She was screaming bloody murder, and all I could do was watch. A spark of crazy courage took hold of me, and I attempted to open Shelley's window. I wasn't sure what I was going to do, but it didn't matter. To my surprise, her window budged, and I was able to pull it up enough to get my hands under it and get a better grip. Shelley continued to scream, and I can hear an ungodly growling and ripping sound just beneath it. Just as the window finally gave way, and it was wide enough to crawl through, these black eyes appeared right at the window. Two clawed arms reached out after me. It happened so fast that at the time I didn't feel the pain as I yanked my arm away, and one of the claws sliced my wrist. This time, I know I screamed as I ran away. A few porch lights came on while I ran towards my waiting car at the end of the block. Later on that very day, police came to my parents' house and raided my room. They found me hiding under my bed, but not because I was hiding from them. They showed me pictures of the crime scene. My camera, my phone were found in Shelley's backyard just under her bedroom window where I dropped them. My fingerprints were found all over the bedroom window. My shoe prints all around the outside of her house. DNA samples just outside her bathroom window and blood at her windowsill. I already know my DNA will be a match, but what am I supposed to tell them? I loved Shelley. I couldn't hurt her. I'd never do anything to harm her. The pictures of the crime scene were a bloody blasphemy on Shelley's true beauty. The police told me that witnesses saw me running away from her house. Look, I can't prove that what I saw was real. But I swear I'm innocent of the crime I'm being accused of. All I did was try to help her. I loved her! You gotta believe me! Whatever it is that killed Shelley is in her closet. It was the monster in her closet. I swear it wasn't me. I didn't do it. I didn't hurt Shelley. I think I can see those same black glints of evil in the shadows now. I made a noose from my blankets, and I plan on ending my life before it comes for me too. I'm sorry, Mom and Dad. I know I'm a disappointment to you both. Whew.
Wow.
That was fun.
Holy cow. Incredible job, and I'm like blown away by the story and then the way that you read it. That was intense.
This second part of the story had to be a
Wow.
little bit more dramatic, different perspective on what was happening to Shelley. Now, TJ, what do you think really happened?
Well, I don't think it was him.
I mean, are you sure? The police have already stated that he has displayed some severe mental instability.
Yeah, because if he saw what he said he saw, let's just say, for argument's sake, he saw what he said he saw. Of course he's going to be mentally unstable right now, because who wouldn't be after seeing something so horrific and unrealistic? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, of course you'd snap because you just saw something that isn't possible. But
In cases with extreme stalkers, though, they all say the same thing. I didn't want to hurt that person. Oh, I love
Right.
that person. But they always end up hurting the person. They deny it. Oh, it wasn't me. It was the devil.
right.
But then, of course, I also allowed the argument. He described basically the same thing she did.
Right. And he wouldn't know that, you know.
Very true. Yeah.
Dark Eye, he wouldn't have any idea about that unless he had gotten a hold of some of those journals, which it didn't sound like he did.
Well, maybe he did, but he forgot. Because, like I said, stalkers sometimes completely black out the fact that they actually did hurt their victim.
Yeah, true.
Maybe he really was hiding in her closet. Maybe he was ruffling through her stuff at night, and whenever she would wake up, he'd dart out.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe he wasn't actually entering through her window most of the time and was actually using that key that he knew exactly where it was.
Right, and he was creepy
He was a creepy bastard, yeah.
because just the way he talked about her was creepy, and then the fact that he so openly admitted all the stalking was very creepy. So she was on the right track in her thoughts that he was stalking her, but I don't know. It's hard. I don't know, because the way you read it and the way you portrayed him, to me, let's say I was listening to that as a cop or whatever, I would almost kind of put like, I would say, you know, this kid saw something, is the impression I would get. Maybe he didn't do it. Maybe he saw, maybe it wasn't a black smoky figure. Maybe it was a guy, but it was so dark, or the guy was wearing black, or, you know, like he saw someone do something.
Yeah, but the only evidence in that house or around that house is his
Right,
fingerprints, his DNA, and I tried to be as PG-13 as I
Right.
could be about the DNA at her bathroom window.
Right.
We all know what
figure
that
it
bastard
out.
was doing.
Right.
Disgusting.
But his explanation covers all of that, and like legitimately covers it. Where you could go, okay, yeah. Like if his whole thing had been, I saw a man come out of her closet wearing a black face mask and dressed in all black, and he had a knife, and he, you know, like that would obviously be more believable than what he described. And then he still accounts for why all his stuff is there, why the blood's there, why would he make up a smoky figured black claw-like character if that's not what he saw? Why wouldn't he just say a guy?
Well, remember, the way he described it is a little bit different than the way Shelley would describe it.
Right.
He said it was smoky.
Right.
At no point did I allow Shelley to describe it as smoke.
No.
The only thing that they kind of had in common were the fact that it was a black monster with eyes that were blacker than black and had a sheen to them, like as if they were onyx, or in his description, very similar by the way, black glass.
Right, so shiny black.
Yeah.
Right.
I wanted to leave the story up to interpretation to some extent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's for sure.
But now for the little bit more personal reveal, I put a lot of myself into this story. I'm not saying I was a creepy stalker that searched through women's windows. I think I told you beforehand that I took aspects of myself and I amped them up to
11.
Ridiculous levels.
Yeah.
The creep is me. It's the impure, shameless thoughts that I had as a teenager. And of course, his story starts off as a teenager.
Right.
Meanwhile, Shelley's story goes from being a child in elementary school to an adult, dealing with day-to-day stresses. Also me. When I was a kid, I was basically taught that when you so much as think a bad thought, a naughty thought on anything, on anyone, you've already sinned. You've already done bad. So I felt guilty about all these things.
Right.
I really did.
Yeah.
I walked around with perpetual guilt and I thought that I was a bad person, and I did my best to be polite and nice, you know?
Yeah.
And also, I was shorter than the usual high schooler.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a fantastic 5'0" nothing. Yeah, eventually I hit a growth spur, but yeah, for a long time I got bullied over my height.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I threw a lot of myself into this story. Like I said, I didn't actually creep on anybody, but I didn't know how to talk to women. I didn't know how to talk to girls.
Right, and her feeling ashamed of having not always perfect thoughts is you as a child, and then him dealing with the awkwardness of being a teenage boy.
Mm-hmm.
Short and awkward and shy. That's part of you too, so.
Yeah. No, I actually thought about making him fat and ugly as well, but I was like, I wasn't fat or ugly. I was just short. So I didn't want to throw in things that weren't me.
Right.
I did keep journals as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Teachers would tell me it's good for me.
Right.
And yeah, I would vent in my journals. I would vent in my journals, and I felt that was more of a safe space. Unlike, well, actually, yeah, I guess you can say that Shelley felt a safe space to vent in her journals.
Yeah, I think so. The way she wrote in them, it seemed like that was the place she felt she could release some of that negative thoughts and energy without it coming back to kick her ass.
I came up with the idea of this, actually. I thought about this very idea of writing a story about a good stalker a while back, but I didn't really know how to articulate that. Until recently, I got bit by the I got bit by the inspiration bug, and boom, these two stories just came out of nowhere.
Incredible. Very well done. Again.
Oh, thank you.
Very well done.
And obviously, I didn't feel that there would be anybody that could read the story better than you.
Aww.
So I handed the female version of my story, of my life.
Yeah.
I felt that I had to make it a female because somehow, I think most people can agree that somehow we relate better to a female protagonist in stories.
Especially this kind, I think, because vulnerability is, a lot higher when you're a young woman in this type of situation. It's a lot more of a vulnerable situation than a guy being stalked by some little fangirl or, they can both be equally dangerous, but you feel the vulnerability, I think, more when you read about a young lady. And then she's obviously losing a little bit of her sanity herself in all this.
Yes! I'm glad you picked up on that.
Oh, yeah, you can just tell from her personality completely changes.
Yeah, she starts blaming other people. She immediately starts blaming other people. Her coworkers are talking smack on her. Two of her professors are completely incompetent. She used to be a straight-A student, but the stressors of everyday life, you can tell, okay, she's gotten a promotion. Obviously, she works really hard.
Yeah.
You already know that she's very smart. Even teachers have said that she's very smart. She excelled at school, so obviously she's going to excel at college as well.
Right.
But obviously she's not doing so well in school anymore. It's clearly her own fault. She's stressing about stuff, not sleeping well, feeling guilty about thinking negative thoughts about other people, but still she's blaming other people, and it's a perpetual self-sustaining cycle where she's giving herself nightmares because of the guilt that she's feeling for hating other people or feeling negative thoughts of other people.
Right, and those journal entries, those last few, they're nothing but negative. There isn't one positive thing in those, And so it's like, here she is still talking about the dark eye, but being negative is wrong, and yet everything, there wasn't one positive thing in those. So it was well beyond her at that point. I think she didn't have any control over anything anymore.
And of course, let's move on to our antagonist slash anti-hero. More of an antagonist, I think, right?
Yeah. I mean, there are parts of him that I felt bad for, and then you feel bad because you feel bad for this guy who's crazy, is like a stalker, and he's really doing something really wrong. But there's a little part of me that was like, the poor guy, you know what I mean? Like the unrequited love, and he just wants her to notice him, but, the way to go about it isn't stalker. Talk to her, say hi, whatever. But, the way he went about it was so backwards and so wrong. And he's so creepy.
Then I have done my job.
Yes, you did.
That's exactly the character I wanted to portray.
You did.
You sympathize with him, but you don't want to sympathize with him because he's a creep. And I know that there's people out there like, what are you talking about? I don't sympathize with this guy at all.
Right.
Meanwhile, there's other people that completely sympathize with him. He's like, no, he didn't kill Shelley. He tried to save her.
Right. And that's and I think, you know what it probably is? I'm going to go out on a limb here and play psychologist.
Go for it.
So I'm a very empathetic person. Almost to a fault, because it can get exhausting, when you can empathize with someone, because if they're always upset or always stressed out, it wears you down. So I empathized with him immediately, because right away it starts with just this innocent kid who just wants this girl to notice him. She's so beautiful, and I just want her to notice me. I love her. So you feel for him, because you're like, aw, teenage boys probably go through that a lot. Teenage girls do. I know I did. Where you want that one person to notice you. So it's relatable. And if you're an empathetic type of person, then you're like, yeah, I've been there, man. I feel you. I feel you. But then we slowly watch him change, and that admiration for her just turns into an obsession. And once it gets into obsession, that's when you've crossed that line of, oh, that's sweet and poor kid. You cross it to, oh, now we're getting creepy. So I think my opening empathy for him fought to continue with him through the whole story. So at the end, that empathy part of me is like, but I just don't think he would have hurt her. You know what I mean? Whereas people...
You have to believe it. You have to believe that he wouldn't have hurt her.
You want to believe he wouldn't hurt her because it started out so pure.
Evidence proves otherwise.
I know, but if you listen to his story... But I know his story's so unbelievable. So yeah, you're at that crossroad where it's like, I don't know. I want to believe he's being truthful, but his story's pretty out there. It's pretty unbelievable. But why would he make up a ghostly figure? Why not just say a man, like I said? It's almost one of those, if it sounds so crazy, when they could have said something so simple, why would you make something up so crazy?
Well, the reason that I believe that maybe that some people might believe that he did kill her and make up this monster is look how devoted he is to how perfect she is. Now imagine how his mind would react if he did break in, okay, and realized or felt smited that, why hasn't she noticed me yet? Why hasn't she talked to me yet? And he decides to go and get a knife, and he's going to force her to talk to him. Because remember, in none of her entries, in her last entry of that night, she didn't put down that she picked up a knife or that she put her baseball bat next to her bed.
True.
We only get that information from him.
That's true.
I purposely set these dominoes up the way that I did so that I can introduce some doubt into your mind.
You just did, because I was just thinking, okay, so... Yeah, she mentioned she was more frustrated and annoyed, I think, than anything, and just pissed, and scared, but more frustrated at herself with the nightmares and this and that. The dark guy's not real. I know he's not. So what if, because he knew where her key was, what if he got in and did read that journal and saw what kind of things she was saying about him?
Well, remember, he specifically mentioned, hey, I hope she wrote about me in high school.
Right. And
there is an entry about him in high school.
Right, when she stuck up for him.
Very specific.
But what if she saw the entries where she says, that he's a creep, and then maybe he did wait for her to come home, because then he realized...
Yes! I'm so glad you picked up on that. I didn't want to say it. I wanted you to pick up on that.
So... She's creeped out by me, so he got the bat, he got the knife, waited for her to go to bed.
Maybe in her closet.
Attacked her, yeah. And as I've seen on many documentaries about serial killers and psychopaths, they do create something or someone in their place. Because, they would never do that. So, maybe he snapped, killed her out of anger for what he read, and then created the monster. And he honestly... believes that's what happened.
And here, I was hoping you would mention this, but if he did get a hold of her journals, then he would have an idea of what the dark eye is.
True. Yeah, because she explains it. So that's why he explained it. Yeah.
And
okay, he killed her. Changed my mind. He killed her.
Okay, now let me introduce some more doubt into your mind.
Oh no!
I'm rocking the boat. The fingerprints were only found on the outside of the window.
So none were found on the bat or the knife?
There was no. I didn't mention anything about the cops finding his fingerprints on the knife or on the baseball bat, but I also kept it short, okay? This is happening while, the night after.
Right, they're not done yet.
Exactly. The investigation's not complete. I mean, even he says that he knows that his DNA will be a match. They haven't made a match. That takes weeks.
Right, and they dust right away, and if they see blood, they're going to test it. If they see fluid, they're going to test it. They're going to, because that's going to degrade, so they've got to run on that real fast.
Exactly. I wanted to introduce doubt on both sides. I hope I did a good job at evening both sides when it comes to doubt. It goes into what she has mentioned and what she hasn't mentioned. In her journal, she says nothing about checking the inside of the closet, just that she closed the door.
Yeah, he's in there. He killed her. I believe it now.
Yeah.
I think they'll find his prints on stuff. And the prints on the outside of the window are either from him watching her or when he jumped out the window.
Here's another aspect of doubt that I want to throw in there. He was careful enough to brush away his footprints.
Right, which is creepy. That part creeped me out too. Honestly, because I was like, if he's putting that much thought into this, like, I gotta make sure I dust away all my footprints, that's creepy. You know, he's really put a lot of effort and thought into this to not get caught, which would make sense to why he would come up with such a lavish story. See, now I think he did it. Like, the more I thought about it.
Yeah, I mean, first you believe that, no, he wouldn't hurt her. Now you believe, wait a minute, maybe he is a psycho.
Yeah. He's definitely creepy, and I had that vibe the whole time because he was very obsessive with her, and that's scary. But I didn't first think, oh, he's not capable of killing her, and she knows that. But yeah, I think he did. I think he read her journals because the key thing is weird. Yeah, but you can't tell me he knew where that key was and never once went in there. No way.
He always said he was too scared to go in, and even to his very dying breath, he said that he didn't do it. He's not the bad guy in his suicide note, which is what this is. This is a long suicide note.
Right, I figured that at the very, very end.
Yep. He was saying that he is innocent. He held on to his innocence.
Well, yeah, because who wants to admit they did that? Especially to the girl that you absolutely love.
Yeah, good point. But how do we know that he didn't just kill himself because, well, like he said, he now sees that the dark eye is coming after him?
I think they both had some psychological problems. Maybe they're both really seeing this dark-eyed creature, but it's all in their mind. Yeah, they're creating it, you know?
Yeah. And I put a lot of thought into naming this monster. I mean, something as simple as dark eye. And I say dark eye because it's like someone is seeing you in a negative light, or it's the idea of seeing things in a negative light. Shame, even. And yeah, you can say that the monster is her suppressed shame.
And it's his.
And it's also his. Yeah, you're right. He felt very shameful for the things he was doing, but he did them anyways. Unlike her, like I said, two sides of the same coin. Unlike her, his shame didn't stop him from being a disgusting little twerp.
Right. But look at her and her journal entries. I mean, she was turning into a bitch, you know?
Yeah,
where
but
she was
now look
hard
at him.
To be around.
He tried to save her. He was turning into a good person. He was trying to save her. He reached down and he grabbed hold of his courage and decided he had to do something.
Or that was his guilt after talking, because he should have tried to save her, but he was the one attacking her. How can you do that then? You're the one that killed her. You can't save her. You killed her. And here's the thing. He wasn't too scared to go in the house, I don't think, because if he can move from window to window to window to see every aspect of her evening, you don't have that much fear. Because at any moment she could turn and see you. He's watching her shower. He's watching her do her stuff in every, he mentions 3 windows he moves from. And it's like, okay, you're not that scared because any second she could see you. You can't be under the cover of darkness that well.
Did I really write this story? Holy hell.
Right? You wrote a deeper story than you even imagined. Because I don't see him being, if he's so scared, I'm too scared to go in when I know her schedule front to back and I know she's not going to be home for 3 hours or 6 hours or 8 hours when she goes to work. You don't think he's going to go in there? Of course he is. What? He knows she's not going to be home.
Yeah.
And he'll stand outside her windows for hours when she's awake. I mean, that's creepy.
That is creepy. And she even deduced that he must have memorized her schedule.
Yeah. Exactly. So he knows when she's not going to be home for an extended period of time.
The only thing that she was counting on is that he didn't know where she lived. But
right.
He did.
And he knew exactly where she lived, which is why she'd leave the key out also, because otherwise there's no way she would have left the key out. If she knew he knew where she lived, that key would not be outside. But the fact that he knows there's a key outside, he's seen her hide it or pick it up when she gets home or whatever. So yeah, he used that key to go inside. He read that journal because he was also very obsessed with what is she writing in that journal every night. So curiosity got the better of him and he had to go in and read it.
Who knows, maybe.
But if he admits that, then he's obviously admitted he's gone in without her knowledge.
I mean, this guy is admitting to doing some disgusting things
Right.
outside her window.
Right.
Why wouldn't he admit to reading her journals? I mean, that's
Right.
vanilla compared to everything else.
The only thing I can think is because that they contain triggers for him, your favorite word. For him to snap. Because then the cops would be like, okay, so you read that she thinks you're a creep, and you're still gonna just be all in love with her and know that didn't have any reaction for you. Like if you are just madly in love with someone and you overhear a conversation of them talking about what a dweeb you are or something, you're not going to be like, oh, I still love him. You're going to be like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. I'm humiliated. I can't believe that they think that way of me. When
She did
I
call him
think
a
they're
hobbit.
perfect. Right. She was very unkind to him, and I think he saw that.
I mean, just her touching him made her disgusted.
Yeah. Ew.
I don't know. I also tried to make that part PG-13.
Did his face go in her boobs?
Yeah, his face
Okay.
went over.
That's what I thought. Turned around right in the chest, because he's short. So yeah, I
Yep,
figure.
exactly. Yep, okay, good. I
Yeah.
did good there.
Yep. And that was before I heard your part, and just from her reaction, I thought, okay, so he must have face planted in her cleavage, and she's
Yep.
not happy about it at all. And he just had the best day ever.
And I thought about writing about that, but I was like, no, I don't want to start there. This guy is supposed to be distraught. He's in a jail cell. He's going to stick to the facts of that night and the
Right.
general important facts of the past that lead up to this.
Right.
So I kind of fast forward through the past of him being in high school, and he slowed down at, of course, the things that happened that night.
Right.
Still trying to keep it PG-13.
Yeah, I mean, anyone, I think, who hears it, they're going to know what you're trying to say without saying it.
And if any of you fans out there of the Creepy Carousel Horror Podcast would like to read these stories, by the time that this comes out, you should be able to find them on my Tumblr. I'm not on Tumblr that often, but I do like to post my stories there. If you'd like to narrate any of my stories, by all means, they are free game. I do like to write creepypastas from time to time. You'd be doing me a favor. Just give me some credit. Let people know where you got the story from, who wrote the story, just to get my name out there, and of course, TJ Scorpio's name out there. Because if you haven't noticed, I like to have her read some of my stories as well. She does them
You're
justice.
so sweet. I love reading
thank
your
you.
stories. They're great. Your stories are so much fun to read. So yeah, if anyone
you.
has narrations for me, because I don't really write, as we've discussed, but if anyone has narrations, I'd be more than happy to. And make
Feed
sure
this woman creepypastas.
Yeah, give me creepy pasta. if you do narrate one of Jeezy's stories, tweet him, let him know so he can go find it and listen. And
Yeah.
it's super exciting. I mean, I've had authors, not many, but some that I've read, they've messaged me and said, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much for reading that. You did a great job." And
she's good.
trust us, it feels so good to have someone notice your work. So when he's writing, if you love it and want to narrate it, it's going to make him feel great. So
I'm also interested as to how some people will interpret
Right.
some of the voices, or they're going to interpret some of the characters that I throw in. TJ, you've interpreted my characters in completely different ways sometimes, and it surprises me. It's like, wow, she's giving this character a life of their own. And all of a sudden, it no longer becomes just my character. It becomes a character that everyone else gets to know. And I feel like I'm starting to get to know this character in a completely different light. It's like, wow, she's giving life to a character. It's as if this is a real person that I thought I knew.
right. But you probably heard a different voice in your head than I read, probably, yeah?
And a lot of my stories, yeah, but most of the time you seem to hit the nail on the head.
Yay.
I know that sometimes I kind of I guide you a little bit as to how I want you to do it.
Sound like a bitch. That was my last one. You need to
Yeah,
sound more pissed.
Sound like a bitch. You're being too nice. Sound like a bitch. Come on.
That was my last direction. You gotta sound bitchier. Oh, that's hard. I was like, geez, I don't know. I thought I was sounding pretty bitchy, but I wasn't. So I send him my
my redos, and then I'm like, if it's not bitchy enough, let me know, and I'll try and do it again. That's the hardest thing.
I'm gonna have to poke her with a cattle prod to piss her off. Now read it.
Son of a bitch. Yeah. It is hard, and yeah, we've run into that a few times where I have to sound mean or angry, and you're like,
you did a really good job at this time around.
Getting pissed off.
I mean, I know you don't curse that often, but when you curse those few times, that was pretty good.
Thank you. I gotta say, this was the most stressful read of my life because you're right there listening to me, and it just stressed me out. So I always feel when I'm done, did I do enough emotion behind it? Because when I read it, I feel like I'm showing so much emotion, but I always worry that's not coming out on the other end. So I hope that you really feel I did it justice, because it needed to have some justice. That was amazing writing, and I wanted to do justice, so I really hope I did.
In this particular story, this was a character that tries to be nice, and you know what? You're all sugar and spice and everything nice, so you definitely did justice to this character.
Thank you, and that depends on who you ask. Trust me, some have seen my bitchy side.
I don't think it exists.
You're so sweet. You just haven't caused it to come out yet. I don't think you will.
Alrighty then.
You're good. You're good.
Now, of course, my narration of this character, I want him to sound like a creep.
You just had so much emotion. I was blown away. Like, I seriously was. Just listening to you, I was just like, wow. You were so into character. It was amazing.
He had to sound like a creep. And, of course, I wanted also to throw in anger, especially towards the end. Oh, yeah. And, of course, sadness. He sounded so pathetic.
He sounded, yeah. I mean, just distraught and beside himself with grief. And, yeah, you pulled that off completely. Had
to make my voice crack a couple times.
Yeah,
Oof.
That's hard. That's hard.
But, I'm not gonna lie, I practiced.
Did you? I didn't. See, it's probably bad, but I try to do cold reads. Like, I read this, but I didn't. Mm-hmm. I didn't read it with any voices in mind. Like, I just read it to see what it was, and then I try when I do a narration to just. That's usually my first full read. I'll usually gloss it and go, I like it. Read it, and then I'll get in, because I want my emotions to be as real as possible. So when it gets to a part that's emotional, my emotions are going to be real, because I'm like, holy shit, what? In my head, you know what I mean? And So that's what I try to do, because if I over practice, then I think I overthink it, and I'll overdo it or underdo it, because I don't want to overdo it, and I'll overthink. So yeah, I try to just cold read everything when I narrate. But I did read this ahead because I had to know what was going on.
Yeah. I hope I didn't confuse anybody at the end where you were reading kind of a narrative from the police.
I tried to change my voice to sound more like serious and authoritative. But I don't know if it came across at all. So I'm going to try to sound like a policewoman or a news reporter person, like very serious demeanor reading this report. Is what I was trying to do.
Yeah, and the reason I was really worried, because you kept asking me a lot of important questions, like, wait, so are you reading this part, or am I? And I'm like, no, you're reading the whole thing. Do I read the starting part? Yes, you read the starting part, the whole thing. All of that is you.
Right. Yeah, and I wanted to make sure because I worry, like I said, with yours, I want to make sure I do it justice, and I don't want you listening going, what the hell is she doing?
Yeah. Now, I think your half of this story, and what's funny is both sides of these stories can be their own standalone stories.
For sure.
And putting them together just makes you completely doubt yourself. Like, wait, is this what really happened?
Right. Yeah.
Now, your story is about 2,200 words long. Mine is at 2,196 words.
Wow.
Yeah, so we read over 2,000 words worth.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
Well done. Those are 2 full stories on their own. And you saw my doubt went from one opinion to a complete different one just in talking about it. Because, there's so much. If you put them both together, there's so much in both that just kind of like twist everything.
And it's not just that. I want people to look at what's in one story but isn't in the other story.
Right.
Who can you believe?
Right. It's a rabbit hole.
I wanted to insert doubt, and it was really hard to insert doubt with Shelley because she's a very straight arrow kind of person.
Right.
The doubt exists towards the end when she's so unstable.
Yeah. She's not sleeping well. She's angry all the time. So yeah, she's definitely losing her sanity herself in a different way. That's the thing. They're both kind of going over the edge, but in a totally different way.
And even more mind-boggling is the fact that both these characters are based off of me.
Right. Yeah.
This is the same person we're talking about.
Yeah, we talked about that the other day, and it's so interesting because, yeah, it's part of you. Both sides that are so different, but it's all part of you when you're growing up. So
Now,
minus the stalking and murder.
Yeah, minus the stalking. I did have a stalker at one point from high school, and they did find out where I lived because of a party that I threw. My parents didn't give me a house.
Right.
My parents didn't get me a house. That part is very far-fetched. But yeah, that part is also true. That happened to me. I didn't do it, but it happened to me. My stalker came to my party because he stole an invitation from one of my friends' backpacks. He opened their backpack, went through their shit, pulled out the invitation, and came to my party.
Wow. That's unsettling.
Yeah. That's very unsettling.
Wow.
Holy hell, yeah. And yes, you heard me right. He.
Right, yeah. Wow.
Now, okay, and here's another aspect that isn't actually of me. For those of you that know, I have a significant other, GZ Girl 13. She's the one that plays softball. I wasn't into sports.
So it's part of her too.
It's part of her, so I threw a little bit of her into this, and that's the softball part. And I wasn't sure how, because her body was covered in bruises. How is it that this short guy can cause her so much damage? The slash marks can be explained through the knife.
Bats will do some damage.
But how am I going to explain all these bruises? He can't overpower her
Right.
unless he used a weapon.
Right. And bats will do it.
Yep. So that's where I threw that idea in there. And both these stories are a blend of my history and my emotions and my struggles. And the only difference is, of course, that I cranked everything way up and added a tinge of insanity in there.
Yeah. That was extremely well done.
Thank goodness. I hope I did a good here for the
You did.
the audience.
Yeah. It was. Yeah. I was blown away at the end. I didn't know what to even say.
Yay!
I really expected there to be some guy in her closet. Like, just when I had my half, I thought someone's watching her, or she just manifested this creature. Yeah.
Maybe there was someone in her closet.
Yeah, it was that guy.
Well, maybe not.
I don't know. That's the part I don't understand. I don't know.
Oh, I hope the audience has enjoyed this episode of the Creepy Carousel Horror Podcast.
I hope so. It was amazing. Well
done. So, thanks for listening. I'm GZDude13.
And thanks for visiting. I'm TJ Scorpio.
And you've been writing the Creepy Carousel Horror Podcast.
Ride with us again on the next episode. Thanks for joining us. You've been listening to the Creepy Carousel Horror Podcast.
If you have any creepy content you want us to cover, feel free to email us at tjgzhorrorcast@gmail.com.
Happy nightmares, everyone.